Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new challenge video. Before we get going, I just want to say a huge thank you for the support on the Shiny Uni Nuzlocke I uploaded recently. If you found my channel from that video, then welcome, I hope you'll stick around. I just want to let you guys know that I've just finished recording my second hardcore Shiny Nuzlocke video, so expect to see that in the near future. Back to today's video. We'll be taking on a relatively old ROM hack called Yet Another Fire Red hack. This is a new version though, and has a slew of new features. I'm talking Dex Nav, pretty much every Pokemon up to Generation 7 I believe is available. It has the physical special split, Megas, even Z moves. That's just the tip of the iceberg though, this game has a huge amount of new content. I'd highly recommend you check it out. There's also a much higher difficulty than the base game, so this won't be an easy challenge. I wanted to do another monotype run, but I thought I'd add an extra layer of challenge. Today we find out, can you beat Yet Another Fire Red hack using only PIKA clones? The title is pretty self-explanatory. I can only use Pokemon that are classified as PIKA clones. For those who don't know, each generation introduces a new electric rodent Pokemon that's meant to be that generation's Pikachu. This trend properly started in Generation 3 with Plusle and Minun, and has been a staple of each new generation since. The rules then are that I can only use these PIKA clones in battle, those being Plusle, Minun, Pachirisu, Emolga, Dedenne, and Togedemaru. I am also allowing myself to use a Pikachu, as it is the original, but to make things more challenging, I won't be evolving it or giving it a light ball. No items in battle of course, and once again I'll be playing in set mode to add a little extra difficulty. With the rules out the way, a quick shout out has to go to these following people for finding the Dabbing Delibird. Look out for him in this one too, and comment down below with the timestamp for a chance to be featured next time. Alright, let's see if our team of PIKA clones can beat this formidable ROM hack. I start the game and pick the male character, calling him Kotaro. As always, comment down below if you get the reference.
We name our rival Zwigo in the fervent hope that he will one day let Plonk and I out of his infernal basement.
You actually don't have to wait long before you can catch your first PIKA clone in this game. On Route 1 you can find Pachirisu. This isn't normally seen as a good Pokemon, but it did perform well in that regional tournament that one time, so maybe it won't be useless. I also catch myself a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, and now we can face the first gym leader, Brock. If you thought the first gym leader would be difficult, you'd be correct. This fight was the roughest start imaginable. Thankfully, only one of his Pokemon is actually immune to electric, but that doesn't stop this fight from being tough. On our first attempt, we couldn't even get past his first Pokemon Rockruff, but I did eventually come up with a strategy. Pachirisu has the move Bide, which doubles the damage that it takes from the previous 2 turns. This means we can easily survive even Onix's Z move, but the problem here is that Onix has Sturdy, which means it survives and then heals up. A little bit of workshopping ideas later though, and we finally get the win. Rockruff easily feints to a combination of Thundershock and Electro Ball from Pikachu, and next up is that Onix. All we need to do here is break its Sturdy, so I go for the priority quick attack, as he actually wastes his Z move on us. We even actually survive as well. I then decide to switch in Pachirisu, who's more than capable of tanking a barrage of Smackdowns and Rock Tombs, meaning that we can take it out with 2 Bides. Now we just need to beat his final Pokemon Bonsly, but Pachirisu can even survive long enough to deal some solid damage to it with Spark, before we finally faint. This guy's already putting in work. From here though, I can send out my very low health Pikachu, and luckily we can one-hit KO with an Electro Ball for the win. That was definitely not an easy start to this run. Just to the right of Pewter though, I can catch another team member, Togedemaru. This is actually a really good Pokemon this early. The PIKA clones definitely got stronger in the later generations, and this is probably the best of the bunch. Its Steel typing and Iron Barber's ability should be really beneficial as well. I then make my way through Mount Moon, which means it's time once again for Lord Helix's words of wisdom. Fail horribly and eat eggs like nobody's watching. Before fighting Misty, I face off against Zwigo. This fight was pretty one-sided though. Togedemaru deals with his first 2 Pokemon Staravia Ralts with no issues, and we even get a double down against his Charmander thanks to our ability. From here, I can just send in Pikachu against his final Pokemon Hawlucha, and 2-shot with a Thunder Punch for a straightforward victory. Get good, Zwigo. Now I challenge Misty, and while she was easy compared to Brock, we still very nearly lost. Weasel is first and goes down to a single Spark from Togedemaru, and next up is Starmie. We do unfortunately get outsped and burned by a Scald, which means our Spark doesn't do anywhere near as much as it should have, and we get taken out by a second one. Pachirisu can outspeed though and bring it down to red health as we tank her Z move, and I thought she'd heal up, but she actually swaps into her final Pokemon Tortuga, who takes decent damage from a Spark. We can then bring it down to red health and even paralyze it with another one before she eats an Oran Berry, and then she takes us out, so now it's a 2-on-1. Pikachu can easily clean up with a Thunder Punch though, and now we just need to beat this Starmie, who she now chooses to heal up. This means that we can't knock it out in a single Thunder Punch, and then we get outsped and hit by a Psyshock, but we're just barely able to hold on, and finish it with one more Thunder Punch for the win. That was a lot closer than I expected. Let's head straight to Lieutenant Surge's gym. This fight was also a close one. Emolga's up first, so I start with Togedemaru and start a rollout chain. We can easily take it down before he deals too much damage to us, and next up is Electabuzz. Thanks to our low weight, we're able to take 2 super effective low kicks, and take it out with a couple more rollouts. Raichu is next and does unfortunately put a stop to our sweep, taking us out with the Surf, so I send in Pachirisu and go for a Bide. We're bulky enough to survive 2 Surfs easily, and the damage from Bide is enough for a one-shot. Now we just need to beat his final Pokemon Luxio, so I go for a couple of Swifts to get as much damage in as I can, before going down. For the 3rd gym fight in a row, it's Pikachu's job to wrap things up. I go for a Brick Break for some decent damage as he hits back with a Bite, and then we're able to survive a Quick Attack before going for the super effective Dig, which knocks it out and we win ourselves the 3rd badge. Now a little bit more of the map has opened up to us, which means we can catch a few more members. The first of which is a Plusle. I decided on Plusle instead of Minun because it has a slightly higher special attack stat, and it's better suited to sweeping. Pachirisu already has the defensive role covered, so this felt like the best choice. I also catch myself a Dedenne. This is part fairy, which is always a good thing, so I'm interested to see how this thing does as I've actually never used one before. Now we can take on Erica, who starts off with an Executor, so I lead with Pachirisu and go for Bide. She misses the first Power Whip, which was actually really lucky on my part, as I don't think I'd be able to survive 2 of these. Bide then hits and it's enough to one-shot it, and next up is Vileplume. I set up a light screen as she poisons us with a Toxic, and then she uses her Z move to take us out after the poison damage. I switch in Togedemaru though, who resists her moves, and eventually take it out with a few stacked rollouts. Shiinotic is up first but can't survive as rollout has been massively powered up now, and last up is Sarina. I'm not sure why, but rollout does next to no damage even though it was meant to be the 5th turn, so I decided instead to paralyze it with a Nuzzle, a move that's exclusive to PIKA Clones. I then start spamming rollout once again, and that combined with the damage from our Iron Barb's ability bring it down to the red before we finally go down. I send in Pikachu to revenge kill it, but she does fully heal up. This means we can't do too much before she takes us out with a couple of Trop Kicks, but our ability static does take effect. I can then just switch into Dedenne and go for a few Aerial Aces to finish it off, winning us gym badge number 4. Let's skip ahead to Koga. This fight was actually pretty easy, much to my surprise. He starts off with a Beedrill and immediately Mega Evolves it, and takes out our Plusle from full health. I send in Togedemaru, who resists his moves, and go for a Zing Zap, but he actually decides to switch into Weezing instead, who takes it pretty well. 2 more knock it out though, and we even survive a Heat Wave, and the Beedrill comes back out, only to get crushed by another Zing Zap after we just survive the next Scissor. Crobat is next, and I was sure we'd be taken out, but his Air Slash is 4 times resisted, and even though we only have 10 HP, we survive with just 4 left. Another Zing Zap is a one-hit KO, and Koga's final Pokemon is Toxapex, another Pokemon weak to Electric. He does heal up a couple of times, but we can eventually take it out with some Zing Zaps, and win ourselves the 5th badge. Togedemaru really is putting in work here. Now we take on Team Rocket in the Silph Co building, where we get challenged by Zwigo once again. This fight was incredibly easy though. Plusle brings Pidgeot down to red health before he switches into Alakazam, who Plusle can deal with thanks to boosting our special attack with Charge Beam beforehand, and he then sends in Gyarados for some reason, who also gets destroyed by a Discharge. Executor's up next, so I decide to swap into Togedemaru, who has the 4 times super effective Pin Missile to take it out easily, and Charizard is up next, but goes down to a single Zing Zap. All he has left now is his wounded Pidgeot, who also just goes down to a Zing Zap, winning us the fight. Man, this team is actually a lot better than I expected. We then face off against Giovanni, who was actually a challenge for once, as he has a plethora of ground types on his team. Excadrill is up first, so I start with Pachirisu, who has Super Fang, a move that always deals 50% of the opponent's health. This brings it down just low enough to where Pikachu could finish it off with a Brick Break, but he actually switches in Flygon instead, who takes decent damage thanks to a crit. I switch in Plusle as he sets up a Sandstorm, but our Swift does minimal damage, as we get wrecked by an Earthquake. I switch in Togedemaru, who has Magnet Rise to avoid ground moves, and then I go for the Pin Missile as he switches in Nidoqueen. I decide to switch out myself and send in Pikachu, who takes a double kick with ease, and then I can bring it down below half with a Surf as we even survive a Body Slam. I can then bring it down to low health as he gets fully paralysed, and then he switches out yet again, this time back into Flygon to take another Surf. So I switch into Dedenne, but we just get one shot by an Earthquake. I take the opportunity to set up another Magnet Rise with Togedemaru as he switches out again, this time into Excadrill. Without Earthquake, he can barely do any damage to us, so a couple of Pin Missiles finish it off, and next up is Rhydon. I switch in Pikachu as we get incredibly lucky as he misses a Stone Edge, allowing us to outspeed the next turn, and take it out in a single Surf. Flygon comes back out again now so I can get a little bit more damage in before we get taken out, so now I'm down to my final Pokemon, but at least it's Togedemaru. I go for Magnet Rise to avoid certain death by Earthquake, and then proceed to finish it off with a Pin Missile, so now we just need to deal with Nidoqueen. We unfortunately only hit twice with Pin Missile, which just falls short of a KO, but we're more than bulky enough to take a double kick, which activates our ability and finishes it off from there for the win. That was the first time in a while that Giovanni's been tough. In comparison, Sabrina was a complete walk in the park. Togedemaru pretty much just one or two shots her entire team with Zing Zap, so we sweep her aside without a single Pokemon fainting. This was definitely the easiest gym fight of the run. Blaine's next and leads off with a Darmanitan, so I start with Togedemaru. Zing Zap falls short of a KO as he retaliates with a huge Flare Blitz to take us out, and to add salt to the wound, he even just hangs on from the recoil damage. I send in Pikachu to finish it off with a Surf, but he swaps in Infernape instead. Surf hits, but it's not doing enough to two-shot, so I send in Plusle to take a close combat, which does take us out from full health, but does lower his defenses, meaning Pikachu can swap back in, thankfully outspeed, and finish it off with one more Surf. He sends in Darmanitan again, only to immediately switch in Camerupt, who's 4 times weak to Surf, but still manages to hang on, and then fully heal up. We're obviously faster though, so even with him Mega Evolving, we can just take it out with a few more Surfs. Darmanitan comes out no, never mind, he switches into Magmortar. Surf doesn't do too much, but we can still outspeed and hit a Dig to bring it down to low health, before being taken out by a Flamethrower. Dedenne can come in and finish it off with a Paracharge though, and next up is Darmanitan for the 500th time. It just goes down to another Paracharge though, and we're down to his final Pokemon, Arcanine. I go for Volt Switch for decent damage, which also allows me to swap in Pachirisu, who takes a Flare Blitz as he does a good chunk of recoil damage to himself. He eats a Citrus Berry, but this activates our pickup ability. That's right, it's actually useful in this game. We pick up his berry, so now we switch back into Dedenne, who takes an extreme speed, and we can even hit a Paracharge, before fainting to another Flare Blitz. Pachirisu is my final Pokemon now, and he eats the Citrus Berry he picked up, and this actually allows us to survive the incoming extreme speed, and I was hoping a Discharge would be enough, but he just hangs on. We get the paralysis though, and Blaine then proceeds to make the worst play in history, using a full heal when he could have taken us out, allowing us to feint it with one more Discharge for the win. That was insanely close. I decide to try and take on the 8th gym leader Giovanni, but his ground types are just way too much for us at the moment, so I need to do some training. I also decide to catch my final team member in Molga. Not only is it immune to ground moves, which is invaluable for this team, but for some reason it can learn Energy Ball, which could be just the ticket to victory that we need. I try again, and after many attempts, we finally get the win. Excadrill is up first, and Togedemaru is actually able to bring it down to red health, thanks to a mixture of Magnet Rise and Fell Stinger before fainting. I send in our new Emolga to try and take it out with an Energy Ball, but he switches into Rhyperior, who just gets one shot. Questionable play there, Giovanni, I won't lie. Nidoqueen is next, so I go for Acrobatics for roughly 40% of its health, as he hits back with an Ice Beam. We do live the hit, but we're not going to be taking it out next turn, and I really need Emolga for later, so I switch in Pachirisu. I'm able to hit a couple of Super Fangs and even live an Earthquake and Ice Beam thanks to our ability picking up another Citrus Berry, so I decide to switch in Pikachu, who's able to tank an Ice Beam with no problems, and I try and finish off with a Surf, but he swaps out again, this time into a Zwiggo. This is no ordinary Zwiggo though, this is a Mega Zwiggo. We do a little bit of chip damage before going down, and I know from past attempts that this Emolga can't KO from here, so I decide to sacrifice Plusle instead, and get a tiny bit more damage in with Swift. Now I'm sure that we can KO, but he switches out instead, sending in Nidoking, who only takes a small amount of damage. Again, I still need Emolga, so I switch into Dedenne, who actually lives a Poison Jab, meaning we can get a little bit of damage in with a Play Rough before fainting. We even lower its attack in the process, but that doesn't really matter, as from this range Emolga can KO with an acrobatics, and Nidoqueen goes down the same way. Swampert then comes back out, but just uses a blue scarf for some reason, so we take it out with a single energy ball, and now we just have his Excadrill to contend with. It's on low health, so I know he's going to heal up, so I take the opportunity to switch into Pachirisu once again. This allows me to bring it down to 50% with a Super Fang before getting taken out. It's now a one-on-one situation here, as I go for the energy ball, which isn't quite enough, but we do get the special defense drop, and even survive the incoming Smart Strike, and paralyze it with our ability Static. He then heals up again, so things aren't looking too good, but we actually get insanely lucky, as energy ball is going to be a 3-hit KO, and on the turn he could have attacked us to take us out, he uses a full heal instead, meaning we can outspeed it the next turn, and finally finish it off with the 8th and final gym badge. This was definitely the most difficult fight of the run. To balance that out though, the Zwigo fight straight after Giovanni was the easiest fight of the run. We literally just sweep him with a Plusle. Come on Zwigo, let that sink in. You just got swept by a Plusle of all things. We now travel through Victory Road and arrive at the Pokemon League. Here's a look at our final team. I won't lie, I'm pleasantly surprised by how well this team has done. Pachirisu in particular has impressed me the most, and Emolga, while new to the team, has already proved itself to be a worthy addition. Togedemaru is still by far the best Pokemon on the team though, but everyone's been pretty good. Will our team of electric rodents be able to beat the Elite Four though? Well, let's see. First up is Ice Trainer Lorelei. Weavel's up first and actually gets outsped by my Pikachu somehow, so we can bring it down to red health with a 4x super effective Brick Break, and we even survive an Ice School Crash. She then swaps into Glaceon, who takes decent damage, so we can hit one more before fainting to a Freeze Dry, and I send in Togedemaru to finish it off. She actually predicts this though and sends in Mamoswine, who's immune to our electric moves, so I go for Magnet Rise so we don't get hit by Earthquake, and then start spamming Fell Stingers. We both get brought down to red health before she heals up, but I can still hit a couple more and even set up another Magnet Rise before fainting. From here, Emolga can clean up with an Energy Ball, and Glaceon comes out next but just goes down to a Discharge. Weavel's back out next though, and she heals it up as I go for a Discharge, but unfortunately it doesn't do too much, and we get outsped and KO'd the next turn. I send in Pachirisu and use Bide, and thankfully we're more than bulky enough to take 2 Icicle Crashes, and hit back with Bide for the knockout. Glalie up next, and this is actually a Mega. I go for Super Fang, but we miss at the worst possible time, and we unfortunately get taken out by a Blizzard. I send in Plusle and take a risk by setting up a nasty plot, but it does pay off as we're just able to live a hit, but Thunder just falls short of a KO, and we get taken out by a Crunch. I'm now down to my final Pokemon Dedenne, but we're fast enough to outspeed and she doesn't heal, so we take it out with a Paracharge and her final Pokemon Lapras comes out. We have the type advantage and Paracharge keeps us healthy, so 2 of those and a Discharge are all we need to take it out, and we beat Lorelei. I won't lie to you though, that was closer than I expected. Next up is Bruno, but true to form, he was one of the easier Elite Four members. Conkeldurr is up first, and Plusle can deal a decent amount of damage with the Thunder, before fainting to a single Earthquake. I send in Emolga to revenge kill with an Acrobatics, and Lucario is next. I switch in Pachirisu as he Mega Evolves, and goes for the Stone Edge for decent damage, and then I can bring it down to half with the Super Fang. We do get taken out the next turn by an Aura Sphere though, so I send in Togedemaru to finish it off with a Zing Zap after being hit by a Sucker Punch. Scrafty is next, so I get one more Zing Zap in before being taken out by a high jump kick, and send in Dedenne, who has the 4x super effective Play Rough. This is more than enough to take it out from there, and Hitmontop is up next. He almost one-shots us with a critical hit Drill Run, but we just about hang in there, and hit another Play Rough, which prompts him to heal up. I then go for a Paracharge to get some health back, and then finish it off with one more Play Rough, after taking a Sucker Punch. Last up is Machamp, so after the Citrus Berry, one Play Rough brings it down to about 50% of its health, as we get taken out by a Stone Edge. This battle's in the bag though, as Emolga can outspeed, and Acrobatics is more than enough to seal the deal, winning us the fight. Never change, Bruno, never change. Agatha's next though, and I actually hit a brick wall here. Her Mega Gengar in particular just completely overpowers my team. This one took some grinding and a lot of attempts, but we did eventually get there. Spiritomb is up first, so I lead with Emolga and go for the Acrobatics for just shy of half, as she uses Ghost Force. On the turn she's vanished, I switch in Dedenne, who takes it with ease, and we can hit back with a super effective Play Rough for the KO. Chandelure is up next, but not only do we do over half to it with the Discharge, but Dedenne actually survives a Flamethrower. That thing has like base 145 special attack or something. One more would have taken it out, but she does actually switch to Miss Magius, who also takes some good damage and even gets paralysed. I go for the Power Charge, which activates her Citrus Berry, and then she takes us out with a Power Gem. The Citrus Berry actually stops her from healing though, so one Acrobatics from Emolga can finish it off from there, and next up is the dreaded Mega Gengar. It outspeeds us and actually just straight up KOs us from full health with the Shadow Ball, so I send in my tankiest Pokemon, Pachirisu, which is a very weird thing to say. Not only do we outspeed it and survive a Sludge Bomb, but I can hit 2 discharges with the second one paralysing it before we get taken out. That's all we needed from it though, as we can now switch into Togedemaru, who yes is quite over leveled, nice, but can take it out with a Zing Zap. Chandelure then comes back out, only to be instantly deleted by a Zing Zap, and her final Pokemon is Trevenant. I hit a Fell Stinger for some small damage, as she hits back with a 4x super effective Bulldoze, but somehow we survive. I go for a Magnet Rise to avoid another one, and then set up an Electric Terrain, which boosts the power of electric moves, which should be really useful. We then get taken out by a Ghost Force, so I switch into Pikachu, and hit a Wild Charge. It's not quite enough though, and we get taken out by a Wood Hammer, although the recoil does bring her down to red health, and she also gets paralysed thanks to Static. I'm down to my last Pokemon Plusle though, so it's not looking too good. I know she's going to heal up here, so I go for a Nasty Plot, as we're not going to be doing much damage without it. I then go for a Discharge for about half, as we're hit with another Wood Hammer. Plusle is an absolute beast though and barely hangs on, but the Electric Terrain does wear off though at the worst possible time. She fully heals again, and now Discharge is only going to be a 3-hit KO, but the RNG gods were obviously on my side, as we not only get the paralysis, but then we hit a Thunder to bring it down to red health, and she gets fully paralysed. She's out of healing items, so one more Discharge finishes it off, and we finally beat Agatha. That was about as close as it gets though. If you'd have told me that Lance was the easiest Elite Four member of this run, I wouldn't have believed you, but here we are. Goodra is up first, but faints to a single player off from Dedenne, and next up is Garchomp. I go for another one which not only does great damage, but we also get the attack drop, which actually allows us to survive a super effective Earthquake, and then we can take it out with another player off. Honestly, Garchomp could have swept my entire team. Komo-O is up next, but he's 4 times weak to Fairy, so just goes down to a single player off as well, and next up is Salamence. I switch out as he Mega Evolves, and hits a Double Edge on Togedemaru, but it doesn't do too much damage, and we then get some insane flinch luck, bringing it all the way down to red health before he heals it up. Not only that, but we can then survive an Outrage, and proceed to take it out in a couple more Zing Zaps. We're now already down to his final Pokemon Dragonite, so I get one last Zing Zap in for good measure before being taken out by an Outrage. He's locked into that move now though, so I can just switch into Dedenne, and just outspeed and KO with a player off for the win. Well, there we go then. If you want to beat a Dragon Master, just bring along a mouse and a hedgehog. Now all that stands between us and victory is the champion Zwigo. He starts off with Pidgeot as per usual, so I start with Emolga. On previous attempts he's immediately switched in Rhydon, so I tried to predict this and go for Energy Ball, but it didn't work this time. He then swaps into Alakazam though as I hit a Discharge, and we even get the paralysis. He swaps out again though as I go for an Acrobatics, this time into Rhydon. I go for the Energy Ball and he doesn't switch out this turn, so it just faints from there, and Alakazam comes back out next. From this range though, a single Acrobatics is enough to KO, and next up is Pidgeot, who just faints to a Discharge. Emolga's seriously putting in work here. Executor is up next, so I hit another Acrobatics for roughly 50%, but we do get put to sleep, so I decide to switch in Togedemaru as we have Fell Stinger, which is 4 times super effective. He just goes for Light Screen, so I go for the Fell Stinger only for him to switch into Charizard, but thankfully we're faster and a single Zing Zap takes it out from full health, and now Executor comes back out again. This time I land the Fell Stinger on it, taking it out, and getting a huge attack boost in the process, and this all but seals his fate. His final Pokemon is Gyarados, who's not only 4 times weak to Zing Zap, but we have a massively increased attack stat, so this hit is probably enough to KO it 5 times over. Gyarados goes down and we beat Zwigo, and beat yet another Fire Red hack, using only PIKA Clones. Well, that was certainly an interesting run. It started off really rough with Brock being an early brick wall, but actually ended quite smoothly with Lance and Zwigo being exceptionally easy fights. I've got to say, I'm impressed with how these little guys performed. Considering how all my Pokemon were electric types, it really did feel like every Pokemon brought something unique to the team. Pikachu was mostly a physical attacker but carried Surf or ground types. Plusle was a good sweeper with nasty plot. Pachirisu was bulky and had some great moves like Bide and Super Fang. Dedenne was part fairy and could heal up with Paracharge. And Emolga and Togedemaru were by far the best members of the team, being fast and having great attacking options. Overall, this team was pretty good and showed that these electric rodents aren't so useless after all. I also really enjoyed this game. There's just so many features and it really is an improvement. It also reminds me a little bit of Radical Red, but not quite as difficult, and with less emphasis on EV training. I definitely recommend you try this game out for yourself. I really had a good time with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then please be sure to leave a like, and comment down below with what challenge you want me to see take on next. As I said at the top of the video, a new shiny Hardcore Nuzlocke will be coming out in the near future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're new around here, then I hope you'll stick around and hit that subscribe button for me. I'm trying to hit 40,000 subs by the end of the year, so if you liked this video, then I'm sure you won't regret it. Thank you once again for the incredible support. You guys really are the best. That's pretty much all I've got for you today, so as always, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.